A positioning statement is extremely important for an organization and for a product itself. What the positioning statement does is it clearly identifies the competitive advantages of the product in the mind of the consumer. So you want your positioning statement to be extremely short, you want it to be an integral part of your marketing strategy, and you want it to be able to guide not only the employees but also the internal stakeholders such as your employees and other individual stakeholders such as investors who are trying to guide the organization. So it is who you are and how the consumers see you, in particular, how they see you relative to your competitors. I like to say it's not what is, but it's what's perceived. So it's the perception that consumers have about your particular product or the perception that they have in particular about your organization. And this can change depending on circumstances that happen within the marketplace. Sometimes there's something negative that occurs. For example, several years ago, BP had an oil spill. And so consumers had a perception that it was a company that was not concerned about environmental safety. And so the company had to undergo a repositioning strategy. Repositioning says that for whatever reason, you want to change the perception of the mind of the consumers so that they think about your organization or think about your product differently. So you change something within the marketing mix. You try to change how they view you relative to your competitors. Repositioning, you see this all of the time in political races where candidates talk about, well, they had a position on something and now they have a different opinion on a particular issue, but why they've changed their issue. So their repositioning and positioning statements is a critical component for any marketing effort. One of the ways that we can demonstrate how we are positioned relative to our competitors, one of the most effective ways is the perceptual map. And some people call it a positioning map, but probably the better term is called a perceptual map. And this is a way that you can visually show how consumers on two different criteria. So you have to pick two criteria that you're going to evaluate and then plot basically your competitors and how they fit into each of these four quadrants. I believe that a picture is worth 1,000 words. So if you're really trying to describe how consumers view you relative to your competitors, it would take a lot of words rather than showing a perceptual map. In this particular case, they're talking about cell phone carriers. They talked about the length of the contract is one of the criteria, and then the coverage area is the other. So whether you have to have a very long contract or no contract at all, and whether you have good coverage or bad coverage. So you'll see that those are plotted. This is something that can be done by plotting in data. So you can actually take the actual data and then create a perceptual map. There's free software if you're ever asked to do this for a project. There's free software where you can do this, or you can plot it subjectively, which means you just place where you believe the businesses lie in the mind of the consumer. So you'll see that their AT&T is viewed as having a little bit more coverage, but they also tend to have a higher contract now. Obviously, with cell phone carriers, this changes year to year, so it's difficult to keep up with where they currently lie. But at the time this slide was created, this was the example. So a perceptual map is extremely important to be able to show how your organization or your particular product compares with that of your competitors. So remember, when you're building a marketing plan, you're trying to develop marketing strategies, you want to first identify how your company or product is positioned, how the consumers view your product. You want to then determine if any repositioning strategies are necessary. And then finally, you want to be able to create a perceptual map to be able to show how consumers view your particular product or company as compared to their competitors.